So with the recent chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen releasing, Kenjaku has a lot of interesting moments. But the one that stands out most to me was when Kenjaku was speaking to Uraume and stated that if Gojo Satoru loses, the only opening they have to defeat Sukuna is right after the fight. So the others from Jujutsu High, particularly the heavy hitters led by Kotu, can't afford to leave your battlefield today. Which means I'm free to move as I please. Then he leaves the area. Kenjaku does two things here. First, he explicitly makes it clear that he won't be as active in any of the events currently taking place with Gojo and Sukuna. And second, that all of the students have no choice but to remain around the area. In case Gojo happens to lose, they need to be the ones to finish off Sukuna. By doing this, Kenjaku is straight up saying that they're gonna fight Sukuna before they fight me, no matter what happens today. So now we know that Kenjaku's scheming, and he has more than just Sukuna going on, which he does with Tengen the merger, so he'll be working on that. So now we can just assume that Kenjaku and Sukuna's binding vow has been fulfilled, and that Kenjaku is no longer reliant on Sukuna in order to fulfill his ambitions. And to be honest, it seems as if no matter the outcome of this fight, his plan will come into fruition, as he's already set up everything over the course of 1,000 years, and he does not really care to see the fight between Gojo and Sukuna either. Which is another reason why I believe his plan will come into fruition no matter what happens. Because if Kenjaku's plan truly relied on Sukuna or the outcome of the fight, you'd think he'd be there watching and biting his nails. If I had to guess, I would think that Kenjaku is going to swoop in and finish whichever the victor is, due to their exhaustion. However, Kenjaku has stated that he needs all players dead in order to begin the merger, so it's more than likely that he knows Sukuna will win. As Kenjaku's the type of character to sit back, but only intervene unless absolutely necessary. There's also Kenjaku's relationship with Yuji Itadori, the protagonist of Jujutsu Kaisen. Kenjaku is somewhat Yuji's parent, as he stole Kaori Itadori's body, and seems to have either birthed Yuji, or really anything else. We don't know the exact specifics of the situation, but what's certain is, Kenjaku has toyed with and ruined Yuji's family. As Yuji's grandfather had told Yuji's father, Jin Itadori, to stay away from that woman or he will die. Yuji's grandfather wanted his last words to be something related to Yuji's parents, but Yuji refused to listen. However, whatever Kenjaku did to Yuji's parents must have been related to his grandfather's last words, because why else would he want to say anything about them at his deathbed? I personally believe that once Yuji Itadori connects all of the dots, even with his last conversation with his grandfather, he'll feel a rage towards Kenjaku that goes beyond anything else we've seen previously, as Yuji's grandfather was his sole caretaker and Yuji's reason for becoming someone who wants to protect everyone. There's also Kenjaku's interest in Yuji, as when he summons all of the cursed spirits at the end of Shibuya, he directly states to him, "Goodbye, Yuji. I expect much from you." This is likely due to Yuji and Kenjaku's interwoven past, and Kenjaku having a specific goal for Yuji. What's also interesting is that, as of chapter 222, Yuji seems to have developed an ability similar to Kenjaku's body hop. Kenjaku and Yuji's next and final meeting will certainly be one to shake up the entire series, and has a chance to be one of, if not the best moment that Jujutsu Kaisen has to offer. Kenjaku also has beef with Choso due to what he did to his mother and siblings, Kamo for taking over his entire clan and essentially stealing it from him, Yuta for sealing Gojo and putting Gojo in a situation where he needs to defeat his best friend again. I mean, when you really think about it, we're here in these current conditions because of Kenjaku and his 1,000 years of planning. Kenjaku has pushed 95% of the story single-handedly. Nearly everything that's happened in this story was because of Kenjaku and his need to create a new form of energy. Every single tragedy that has fallen on every character has Kenjaku's presence within it at some point. And about Kenjaku's relationship with Sukuna, they seem to scratch each other's back, but Kenjaku has outplayed everybody, and fairly easily. If one decides to betray the other, I'd bet that Kenjaku will pull a fast one on Sukuna. Not that there really is any reason for Kenjaku to do so, so I do believe that this scenario is unlikely. I believe Kenjaku and Sukuna have more of a whatever happens with this guy happens kind of thought of each other, but I see no reason for either one to betray one another, as their goals don't really clash with each other. If they were amicable during the Heian era, the worst era of Jujutsu and pretty much the worst era to be alive, they should be amicable in the modern era. The closest to a betrayal I could see from Kenjaku is the cursed spirit that he creates, possibly killing Sukuna, but that's about it. But that will just be out of his control, as he wants this thing to be out of his control. So you couldn't even blame Kenjaku if something like that were to happen. Now as for Sukuna, Sukuna has many reasons to be the final villain of Jujutsu Kaisen as well. We'll start with his relationship with Yuji. Sukuna and Yuji have always been in conflict with one another since the second chapter of the series, as Yuji's body was essentially a prison for Sukuna, and Sukuna being let out of this prison always came with serious repercussions for Yuji. As the very first time Sukuna was let out, Yuji ended up dying by Sukuna's hand. But during the Shibuya incident, we were fully brought to light as to what Sukuna could really do if he's let loose from Yuji's body. Sukuna kills hundreds of people due to his battle against Mahoraga, leaving Yuji devastated and coming to understand as to why the higher-ups wanted him dead. This moment played a huge role into Yuji's eventual breakdown against Mahito. After the Shibuya incident, it's noted that Sukuna's actions have traumatized Yuji so much that upon meeting Yuta, Yuji asked Yuta to kill him in case Sukuna were to ever break loose again. In Yuji's last meeting with Sukuna, upon Sumiki's possession, Megumi's heart and soul is shattered, allowing Sukuna to take this opportunity to cast his possession over Yuji due to his binding vow and move on to Megumi's body. A true nightmare for Yuji Itadori. As Yuji calls for Megumi to come back, Sukuna deals a devastating blow to Yuji, sending him flying across multiple buildings. As Yuji regains consciousness and returns to the battlefield, upon seeing Hana be bitten and thrown off a building by Sukuna, he snaps. Yuji jumps onto the building next to Sukuna and meets his gaze, and flies right at him, screaming his name in an unbridled rage. As the two fight, and their battle eventually comes to a close due to Uraume's intervention, Sukuna mocks Yuji's helplessness and his inability to save his friend, leaving the battlefield. Yuji is shown to hate Sukuna more than anything due to this incident, stating that he will do anything to kill him. Sukuna and Yuji's conflict is absolutely heated and full of narrative build-up, and this allows most to wonder if Gojo will really be the one to defeat Sukuna, because if anything, Yuji seems like he should be the one to land the final blow. I personally would like for Sukuna to be defeated by Yuji, as it'd be pretty satisfying, and as much as Sukuna likes to downplay and disrespect Yuji, Yuji could be seen as a rival towards him, as Yuji is the character that caused the most trouble for the King of Curses, although Sukuna would never admit this himself. When it comes down to it, Sukuna has potential to be the final boss, and I would not complain, but the story seems to point towards Kenjaku being the villain that comes after Sukuna, as Kenjaku seems to imply that he won't be around for the match and is going off to do whatever he wants to do. And I don't see why Kenjaku can't be the final villain. He's insanely strong himself, has driven majority of the narrative, and is like this Aizen-like figure. Not to mention, he's the parent of the protagonist. I'm sure Kenjaku has more than enough boxes checked out in order to fulfill that final boss slot. And I can guarantee you, Kenjaku will not disappoint. Because has he ever? Anyways, if you took the time to listen to this, thank you so much. I appreciate your viewership. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.